Hello YouTube. In today's video I'm going to be soldering on a stanchion Magwell, which I got from Brownells. This Magwell suit comes with a Magwell and a mainspring housing. I am very new to this. This is going to be my second time soldering. So I'm sure I'll make mistakes, and I'm sure a lot of you will be able to give me pointers on what I've done wrong. But essentially, this Magwell will sit right here, and it will replace the material that we're going to remove from the frame. I'm going to sand the frame down a little bit. First, a sheet of 120. Take our calipers. We're going to measure the height of the Magwell, which comes out to 299,000 layout die. When that's dry, we can take our calipers, set to 299 thousandths, and we're going to draw a line . Should be able to see that line. Now we're going to measure the inside of the Magwell here at the back, and we're getting 750 thousandths. Let's measure our frame. We're getting 759. So we're going to need to take 9 thousandths off, and that means 4.5 thousandths from each side. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do is use my checkering guide. So I've got my checkering guide now secured this way, basically serving as a guideline for my file. The most important thing is that I don't go past that line. The jig has been repositioned, and we're going to start filing this side now. What we can see, perfect. Alright, I just marked the frame again, and now we're going to remove a big chunk of the frame using a hacksaw. I made the cut. It's not touching the rear magazine wall, and now I'm just going to make a cut straight down. Now we're going to continue trying to get close to the line. And now we can start checking how our Magwell fits as far as how far to push it back. And that's what we're going to use the square file for. That lug file comes in handy for this. What we want to do here is allow the Magwell to go in as much as needed to align the inside of it with the inside of the existing Magwell. So now I'm just removing excess left over from when I was using the square file. You can see it aligns fairly well. So now the next thing we're going to do is I put some temporary bushings in there, grip screw bushings. We're going to put our grips onto these grip screw bushings. Oh wow, very tight, which is actually good. So now we're going to flip this over. Let's see if I can show you basically. And I'm going to use my scribe to mark the line. Now it's the other side. You can see that line now. So now the next thing is to basically position the frame in the drill press or a mill. Since I now have a mill, which was given to me by a good friend of mine, I'm going to be using a mill for this. But essentially I had this 1911 Builder's jig, and it used to reference off of the slide stop pinhole and the mainspring housing pinhole. But because I'm going to be working on the frame that will have a Magwell soldered on, I had to cut off a chunk here, including that mainspring housing hole. So what I did before I did that was I referenced the frame, and then using the frame as a guide, I drilled the thumb safety hole in the jig, which wasn't there before. And now that and the slide stop pin are my reference points. This chunk I cut off because the last frame I worked on was a railed frame, and it didn't fit the jig, so because I didn't have a mill, I decided to just cut off pieces. So now what we're going to do is take the jig apart. It's pretty tight. Okay. Let's see if this pin fits into our thumb safety hole. It does not. So we're going to use a smaller pin. This is a 156 pin, and I think it should fit. Okay. Now we're going to position the frame. Now we need to make sure we found the thumb safety hole. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to clamp this to either the drill press table or the mill table. You can see that I've secured my rig to the table, not the frame. The frame I can move, right? And I put a pin that used to actually be in this jig, a part of this jig for this specific hole, into the chuck of my mill. I think that's our spot. So now I'm gonna lock everything. So one last check, and now we can take the frame off, take that pin out, and just rest it right there. Alright, so everything I've seen points to bluing actually being a good agent to stop solder from adhering. So what I'm going to do is try and blue the parts everywhere I don't want solder to stick. This is what we'll be using as a flux. This is ultra flux that I got from Brownells. You can see the number right there. And Brownells Silvalloy 355. This is a high temp solder. Started and ran out of oxygen, so I went and got 2 new tanks just so that we are for sure going to have enough. Oh, tanks. Let's talk about tanks. This is a Map Pro oxygen kit from Home Depot. And that's what I'm going to use. It comes with a torch and a sparker. So what we're going to do is take the torch or take the hoses out first. The small goes to the Map Pro. The large attachment or whatever it is goes to oxygen. So we're going to go ahead and screw this in. Oxygen is a left-hand thread. Both knobs are closed, by the way. And now we're gonna put these 2 tanks onto a little stand. So here's that little stand. Kind of goes like that, just on the necks. And you set the tanks down like that. First we'll open the gas until we hear a hiss, like that. Then we'll use a sparker. We'll close it down until the flame touches the nozzle. And then we'll open up our oxygen and try to get that blue flame to be about half an inch. Kind of like that. Okay? Now we're going to turn off oxygen first, and then we're going to turn off Map Pro and let it cool. I'm going to use a little bit of sandpaper over a paint mixing stick. Okay, let's see if we're gonna hit that hole or not. At this point, I've cleaned up the Magwell a little bit, including inside of the mainspring housing channel. And now I've verified that the mainspring housing will actually fit into the channel. So, kind of like that. This is just a test fit, because the actual rails themselves on the mainspring housing are a little bit wider than the rails cut in the frame. First, we're going to measure inside the frame, and then these rails are 629. Now we'll try to fit it for the first time. Seems like a pretty good fit so far. So what I'm going to do is just measure the height from the top of the mainspring housing to the Magwell, and that will be 412 thousandths. Using our calipers, we're going to mark that distance onto the rear wall. I have to go a little bit lower. Now that I was able to pass the pin in through the frame and Magwell, and mainspring housing, I'm going to simply blend We need to cut the grips or grip panels. I brought out a ruler just to continue that line that we made before, using the frame as a guide. So again, with my scribe, so that's the fit we're going for. Trying to make it so that there, so that there is no gap between the grip panel and the magwell. You see I marked on the magwell the contour of the grip panel, and I'm going to be, you'll see it right here on the magwell. And that's basically for me to track what I can and cannot remove.